For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast. Should Sharks fans be worried about this season right now, or was it a blip on the road to sunnier days? Welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks Fans Podcast, where we let our talking to the football. Hit the like and subscribe button, and do support the channel. It helps us with the algorithm and gets us in front of as many Sharks fans as we possibly can. Please also do get involved in the comments of the show, be it on the live edition or later. We've been inundated with comments from last week's Who is the Toughest Shark Ever, which we will get to in a little bit. On this episode, we are going to let Chris Kelly have a rant about the Tigers match as we close that one all down. I will try and stand in for Lats this week and do a social update. We'll preview round 4, Sunday evening clash with the Raiders at Shark Park. Kelly's going to take us around the leagues. We'll do an overreaction Tuesday. And most importantly, we have Francis Crossle debuting and joining us as a regular panelist. So after your successful injury video, we actually made the comment last week, if we have lots of injuries, we'll get Francis on this week as a special guest host. And then that is exactly what happened. So Francis, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Yeah, well, kind of, I guess, except the Sharks got so many injuries, don't they? It's a bit of a bummer, really. So for those that don't know Francis, he is the principal and co-founder of Southside Physio down there on, Baronier Bay Road? I can never remember the number.
Yep. 82.
82, and a former Sharks physio as well. So we're lucky to have him here, and we'll pick his brain in a minute. All right, let's just quickly close off on the Tigers match. Chris, we'll throw to you first. You're going to give us a rant, or as the Sharks were defeated 32-6 at Leichhardt Oval on Saturday night with a lone try from Tommy Hazelton. Chris, 3 days later, how are you feeling about it now?
You know what? It's kind of Cronulla-fied. We've always talked about how we play teams back into form all the time. So very disappointed with the result, saying that I was going to go, 4-0 into a bye. Double points game, as Boldo likes to say, playing the Raiders. Would have been top of the table, 10 points.
We would have been top. We just blew it.
We would have been top of the league. I mean, we all predicted Tommy to get more tries this season, but that's not the way we want it. Plenty of donations were made through bet agencies, obviously, because Sharks were red-hot favourites to play an awful Tigers team who just stepped up to about third or fourth gear, and we didn't get out of first. It was just, they fed off the energy of Leichhardt Oval. They fed off just being hammered in the media. They got to read the lyrics of their own new team song in the dressing rooms afterwards.
That was embarrassing, wasn't it?
And then we were just embarrassed off the field. So I like to wipe it out of the memory and not even think about it again. I'm glad I don't know too many, gluttonous, happy Tiger supporters. But maybe it was karma for me ribbing all my mates before the previous game of the Dragons up 18-0 and absolutely capitulated. So maybe it was a bit of karma coming back on me. But luckily, no one of us tipped the Tigers, so the tipping comp stays a bit even. But what do you say? Like the West Tigers, come on, seriously.
Francis, is it as bad as we think, or are we just? It's okay.
No, I think it was 2 years ago. The Dogs hadn't won a game, and we're the first team to lose to them. So I think it's a bit of that revisited. I think I'm with Chris. Very disappointed. I think our pride was hurt. The players should be disappointed. And I think we should, even though we're going to be down a lot of troops, we'll look to see a step up. So no, it's not as bad as it can be. But yeah, it was certainly disappointing. Yeah.
Franco, did you catch a rewatch today, or you just didn't want to put yourself through that pain?
I faithfully started the rewatch, and after about 20 odd minutes, I thought I can highlight this from here basically, but it really did show on that second rewatch just how fast they came out of the gates. Kelly mentioned, the various gears, but the Tigers were a lot faster than we were. Just looked look quicker to play the balls, quicker in defence. We early on there, we really didn't seem to be hit and stick on any of our tackles. There was a lot of players sort of falling off tackles, which, you know, we talked about the offloads in the debrief, but the first sort of 20 odd minutes there, that wasn't a really big factor. We weren't wrapping the player up at all, let alone the ball. So we were really our own worst enemy there, especially at the end of the first half. We had more possession than the Tigers, but if you didn't look at that stat, you wouldn't have picked it, right? They just seemed to do more with the ball than we did. So yeah, it was just out enthused really is the crux of it.
Well, Nico Hines still tops the Daily M count, so at least we have that to kind of look forward to. Certainly there was a social media backlash against us. Well, I think we just move on. Does anyone want to add anything to that on the Tigers, or are we just done talking about that match and we move on? Happy to move on?
Williams isn't here to say it, so I think one of us should say it for him. The Tigers beat the Panthers. They were their first win last season. The Panthers won the comp, so maybe that continues here.
Well said.
Not sure that I necessarily agree with that. I think we should have seen it coming though. Like, we should have just seen a pumped up Tigers, and I think the conclusion we can also draw is maybe the Tigers aren't as bad as we thought, and they've improved. With Appy Coruscant and Aiden Caesar, those two players are pretty good. So maybe we can expect them to not be the wooden spooners. All right, well, we're going to move on to the social media roundup, and I'm going to do my best to impersonate the man of the people. I will probably fail at said task, so let's just go add to stage there and bring that up and switch to that layout. Yeah, normally I introduce Lats and say man of the people or something like that, but I'm standing in for our good friend Scott Latino, and we'll see how that goes. And just call out, Harley, you are one of the most confident and lovely Sharks fans that we know going around. So maybe we should just be confident we will bounce back for the next game. All right, well, what's going on? Key takeaways from the social media on the end, actually. So we're going to get into that in a second. But the first thing that happened, of course, was friend of the Sharks and longtime Sharks tragic fan, Dylan Wright, took out Australian Idol, which was pretty exciting. And I sadly didn't keep faith. And on the group chat last night, at the last minute, I switched off saying Dylan would win. I said, nah. I looked at the betting odds and thought, nah, he's going to get done here, because the goal was at $1.80 and he was at $3.50 coming into the final three. It was kind of quite an emotional night, really, in kind of looking at what a terrific fellow. Chrissy, you've been following the Australian Idol, haven't you?
Yeah, well, interesting enough, Dylan's given us a little follow back on the Instagram today and said thanks for the support. So that was pretty pumped up. But yeah, like you said, you sort of look at the betting markets with these reality shows, and they pretty much know what the outcome being based on voted by the people. But yeah, it was great. Like, you could sort of see that last performance he put on. He was not struggling to get through it, but it was all just sort of hitting him as he was performing, and he's like, wow, just blown away. And I'm sure he would have seen that support post-show and just even more blown away to know that, you know, he was being supported at Sharks for an event at Sharks at Karilla to watch him perform. So watch his space and see where he performs next.
Performing halftime at the Sharks grand final. I thought I was bummed out that Ricky 100%. Lee didn't call out that it was his local footy club. She could have called out the Cronulla Sharks.
We love Ricky.
I suppose Francis or Franco, you guys were tuned into Australian Idol last night.
Mate, I'm not a watcher. I'm not a watcher of Australian Idol.
I didn't think you were either. All right, well, it was good that Dylan won, and now there are calls for Dylan to, of course, be the number one ticket holder for the Cronulla Sharks. So, look, we were inundated last week with a whole bunch of commentary on who should be the next number one ticket holder for the Cronulla Sharks. And we have posted that video as a standalone video on YouTube if you want to go look at it. I don't think we drew any conclusions then, and I'm not sure that we've done it now. But, yeah, there was a bit of support for Gal on the social media. Dave Faulkner from the Hoodoo Gurus. It was quite a popular choice as well. But more popular was the choice of Peter Gow. So a whole bunch of people talking about all the different things that Peter Gow did for the club in his time. Francis, you would have actually been the physio for the Sharks when Gow was around, wouldn't you?
Yep. Yeah, it was always around the change rooms, always talkative, interested in players' injuries in their rehab. Yeah, got the club out of couple of black holes moving forward. Yeah, so I would be supportive of Pete. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a terrific fella. I just like the one I always talk to is his strategy of dumping the name Cronulla and just calling us the Sharks when all of the teams were merging. Now, you might think, why would you dump the word from Cronulla out of the team name? But he knew that if the Sharks were going to merge and they were only called the Sharks, then whoever they merged with would have to be called the Sharks. So I thought just simple things like that are just so brilliant. I thought that he was just terrific at, and obviously Elle McPherson being his daughter might be good as well. So there's a lot of support for them. There was a bit of hinty, don't make it Scott Morrison. Then there were a few ideas around, the longest serving members of the club that have been around for a long time. So loyalty should be reported. ET was a popular choice. A couple of people nominating themselves, so I wasn't the only person that did that. A couple of nice words about Glenn Wheeler and the contribution that he made. Shout out to Glenn and the Wheeler family. We will get you on at some point, Dane, I promise. He keeps asking me if he can come on as a guest host.
Love it.
So
Love it.
Maybe we'll get Dane on one time. I don't know Jan Selden, but yeah, it should be you. You'd be a good choice. And then Jason Chippendale. This is one made me laugh. It's me, 47 years of disappointment. I'm going to say this to you, Jason. We've all gone through the same stuff. You are just as special as the rest of us, and we've all had that many years, plus or minus, based on our lifetime of disappointment. Matty from the train station, he was a popular choice. He's a bit of a legend around the Shire. He was a popular choice. And then that bloke from New York that donated $5 million was popular. And then Beck, well, look, it's hard to argue with your nan who's 102. So I think that would be just as good a choice as any. So lots of fun kind of thinking about that. And that was who should be the next number one ticket holder. Francis, you weren't on the show last week. Do you want any suggestion on who should be the number one ticket holder for the Sharks?
No, I would have been with Gal probably.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, then the next one. So that previous one from last week's social, that was nice. Right? People played nice on that one. But when it came to discussing who is the toughest Sharks ever, which was another subject from last week, and Francis, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about who you think the toughest Shark was that you came across. This one was somewhat heated and somewhat discussed, but then also there was a clear winner at the end. So Tommy Bishop obviously came up, and then, the legendary ones, Ray Cochran, didn't get the call up from Maddie's chat, but there's a good story there. Yep. Steve Neen was a popular choice. He came up a few times. Les, we led with him. He made the list. He was popular. I didn't know this one, Perry Haddock. And Francis, you were telling us that Perry was a halfback. Is that right?
Yeah, halfback for Cronulla, and then with St George, and he coached at St George with Ron Reddy and Brian Smith for quite a few years. And I believe he went on a trip with Brian and Kay to the States and came back with the idea of OzTag from the American football tag game, and the rest is history there. Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah, he was a great little fellow. Quite tough for his size. He's only small
and quite innovative. All right. I'm not sure who Sombrero is, but Brian, that's a great suggestion. Rob Rowan, the Sorensen brothers came up quite a lot. Marty Lang and Nathan Long, they were some tough buggers. And then, we got hammered a little bit, fellas. So, Michael Baggist, he was not happy with us thinking that we had no idea what we were talking about. And yes, Michael, you're right. We do have no idea. We don't claim to know everything. We just kind of talk about stuff. Rick Burke came up, Steve Neen again, Les Davidson, Kurt Sorensen, Gav Miller, Les Davidson. Greg Bird apparently broke his 2 ribs in a game, and we don't think we went through that one. John O'Docking, Cliff Watson, Nathan Long. Hard to separate the usuals. Then G-Train, Gallen, he came up a lot second. So Danny Lee and Gallen came up a lot. But we pretty much then got into all the Gavin Miller fans. And then Gavin Miller was just by far and away the standout winner. So whilst we couldn't split them, the social media certainly did. And the conclusion is that Gavin Miller is Don Rogers coming through there saying Gavin Miller. So the conclusion was that Gavin Miller, according to the fans, is the toughest Shark of all time. Francis, who did we not mention who was a tough Shark there that we probably should have that you came across in your time?
No, you covered all my ones. The Sorensen brothers were just finishing when we started. They were very tough. And I really had a lot of time for Danny Lee because he was an undersung hero, never took a backward step, a little bit lumbering, but very, very tough. Yeah. So
He was tough.
Yeah, I like Danny, and I don't think you can take it away from Gavin. He was the first Sharks player I ever treated, and he was so motivated in his rehabilitation with all his injuries. He would pester you about, what to do, what more can I do, over and over again. He was very motivated not to miss a game. He's so tough. Yeah, so I agree with your all the viewers' sort of suggestions. Yeah.
Were there
All
different
right, there we have it.
preparations back then for recovery compared to, say, now with all the ice baths and whatnot?
Ice baths are, a new sort of technology of the older regular icing, just ice, and more ice. Eskies with ice, baths with ice at home. The players used to do that, so they're not new. They're more readily accepted. I hope Gavin doesn't mind me talking about him, but he wanted to have every piece of equipment that we had in our physio practice at home, and he wanted to know what settings to put them on and how long to put them on. But today's a lot more structured with the recovery. Players are more educated on how to look after themselves in the older days, and a lot of the older players, it was beers and cigarettes, not recovery and fluid replacement and carbohydrate and healthy meals, etc. So it's changed a lot, Franco.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Geez, you've just built on Gavin Miller's legacy amongst this group, haven't you? He was such a legend.
He was very impressive. Yeah.
Well, you got to be tough. Like, look, I've played sport and I've come off afterwards and thought to myself, you know what? I need to jump in an ice bath, and you never do it. These guys, they like doing it. So oh goodness. All right. Well, Gavin Miller, I'm calling it. Gavin Miller, you are the toughest Shark ever. All right. Well, let's jump onto it. Speaking of injuries, oh goodness, and don't the Sharks have a lot of them at the moment? Yeah. And I feel like the Sharks are being a little cagier actually with their injuries at the moment. So normally they're out with the pilot medical update a little bit earlier, I thought, than they were usually. They put it out as late as they possibly could this week with the announcement of a whole bunch of injuries. So Francis, will talk to you about each of these ones individually. So we've got Toby Rudolph with a possible syndesmosis on top of his other injuries from last year, and we wanted with 3 to 6 weeks. What was your take out on that one, mate?
Well, the syndesmosis is an ankle injury, and it's not a outside or inside ankle ligament. It's the ligament that holds the two bones together. There's a ligament at the front and the back of the ankle, and then there's a tissue between the shin bones, the tibia and the fibula. And at the bottom, when it splays apart, just imagine if you had an old style stretcher and you pulled the hands apart and the material split, that's a syndesmosis type injury. So it's spreading of the base of the ankle joint. So it goes in grade 1, which is mild and can be managed in 3 to 6 weeks with a boot, rest and tissue healing. Grade 2 is more severe and goes to 10 weeks healing. And if it's a grade 2 or grade 3 in a professional sportsman, they usually have the surgery. So the surgery is to pull the bones together and have 2 screws put across and hold them in place. Or these days, the more modern technique is to put a tie wire through, which is a better result, has physiological movement. The old screw method usually had to have the screws taken out 3 months later. So looks like with Toby, as far as we know, it looks like a lower grade high ankle sprain or a low grade separation. So it will actually heal in place. And that healing, it's about that 4 to 6 week period. Yeah.
Are these injuries more common now than they used to be, the syndesmosis, or is it just
I think that the diagnostic ability is more accurate. We've got more specific tests for that injury, which can be done on the sideline very quickly. And then if it appears severe, or with all professional sportsmen, they'll be raced into the local radiologist and have the MRI and make a clear diagnosis of the level of injury. Yeah.
Is the recovery time improved on a syndesmosis? Because I recall several years ago, if someone got a syndesmosis, it was like, oh, well, that's them now. They're done. Put a line through them. We'll talk about them in a couple of months. Seems to be a lot quicker now, a lot less severe.
I think the surgical techniques are a lot better, and the they are allowed accelerated recovery with weight bearing and movement. Yeah, so they still have to have that initial period in a boot and non-weight bearing for a few weeks, and then can accelerate pretty quickly. Yeah. So it has shortened, but it's still a significant injury. Sorry, Chris.
We should have got Zach. Oh, we should have got Zach on here, my son, because he had that surgery himself, and he still doesn't trust his ankle 12 months on. But I keep telling him he's had the ankle put in, and he's done the work. Just relax, but he just still thinks it's he goes to the gym and does those squats, but he doesn't trust the surgery that he's had. But I just tell him it's stronger than ever. They put an anchor in there, like it's pretty good. It's pretty amazing. Surgery was done in a couple of hours, and he was out, so it's pretty amazing.
I think that, it is. It takes a lot of confidence. All these big operations on joints do take confidence out of the players, and there's the psychology of getting that confidence back. And, progressive loading and getting back into that functional jumping and landing and pushing up off the ground and sprinting and stopping. And with your son, perhaps he needs to get a little bit more up and go in those functional things to get his confidence. But, they are challenging.
Shame he doesn't live around the corner from you anymore, Francis. Otherwise, we'd send him to you and you'd sort him out, unfortunately. Sorry, Zach. You stuck down in Wollongong, mate. Let's talk about, look, Chris, you were there. Did you actually see Royce Hunt actually warm up and then go back to the bench, Chris? Did you see that?
No, because as you guys saw on the group chat, I thought that he must have done it in the warm-up, not actually warming up on the sideline. So I thought he did it in the warm-up, and that's where I thought the replacement comes in, because I've seen teams, guys go down in the warm-up and all of a sudden they're rushing and they've got to get approval to get the 18th man in. So I was a little bit confused, like, where is Hunt? What's going on? And just thought we're going to get, Ero's going to come into the team and we've got an 18th man. But, God, like I said, the Tigers come out roaring and all of a sudden we're already one man down as well. So it was just,
we can't get any minutes from him. Francis, what happens in a warm-up if someone does a calf? Look, obviously you're not there and you can't diagnose it by any means, but you can speculate for us.
Yeah, muscle tears in the warm-up usually occur of the hamstring and the calf are most common. And usually players have either had some post-training soreness or perhaps a mild knock in the game or training through the week, but not significant enough to, cause them to, seek treatment or pull out, but can be a weakness in the calf with rapid acceleration and quick stopping, which we do, players do on the sideline in preparation for the game situation. That can sometimes fail. It's not common, but it does happen occasionally. So,
he'll be doing a whole bunch of calf stretches this week, won't he, Francis?
Well, they're predicting 3 to 4 weeks, so it's a bit like Cleary with his hamstring, low grade, 4 weeks out, and in that time, a lot of rehab, a lot of stretching, a lot of strengthening, and the last week, should be pushing to be 100%.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, that's Royce Hunt, and then Amanueli, we're expecting he might be a chance, but did he get back this week? He's got that recurring knee problem. He hasn't been named.
So I haven't seen him anywhere.
So I still think you're right in that.
If you're not named, you can't come back. But it's probably a case where he could have come back, but with the bye, they sort of said, let's give him an extra week off, which gives him technically 2.
Yeah, I'm in the dark a little bit with Hamulin's.
It's no word on him, is there?
Sure.
Yeah, no word on him at all. And then Dale Finucane has got, what has he got? The fractured eye socket.
Yeah, so the eye socket fractures, again, can vary in degree. They can have a period of rest and healing, 2 to 3 weeks if they're very minor. If they're anything more than minor or slightly out of a line or what we call displaced, sometimes we'll put, a little bar and a couple of screws to hold it together. And that can come out later on after 6 or 7 weeks. But according to all reports, it'll be 3 weeks of rest and recovery, and you should be able to start back with training and light contact, then full contact. That's what I would expect.
You mentioned training there, Francis. An injury like that, is it just impact that you're worried about, or could you do sprint training or marathon training, gym sessions unaffected?
Yeah, Franco, there'll be a lot of cross training. The first sort of 72 hours, 2 or 3 days, let the swelling and inflammation settle down, and then it'll be back to cross training. A lot of low impact cardio training, moderate, to strong leg weights and upper body weights. But just back off the chance of getting another knock on it. Yeah,
gotcha.
They can push pretty hard, actually. Yeah.
And then we've still got Cade Dykes and Jesse Colquhoun floating around. So the Sharks have got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 of the top 20 players injured. It's not ideal, is it?
No. Well, we talked about Cade Dykes' hamstring a couple of weeks ago, so he should be looking. I would hope, you haven't seen him named anywhere, but he should be looking to be training at close to 100% this week and back next week. And then the metatarsal, which is the fourth long bone of the foot. It doesn't look like that's been surgically repaired, so it's going to be like any fracture. 6 weeks to repair and a few weeks to get back on his feet and running. Yeah, so he's not back in the near future. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was the.
That's as much as I know. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty bloody knowledgeable, mate. I got to say, it's a lot better than I would have made up. All right. Well, we'll move on to what is not the round 3 match versus the Raiders, but the round 4 match. So. Like, I can't be perfect all the time, and I was rushing through the
No one pays attention, mate. We don't pick up on your mistakes.
Well, don't clap the mistakes either, Chris. We know this. When the other team makes an error, you don't clap the mistake. You just kind of
forest through the trees, Kelly. Forest through the trees.
Well, look, all right. Well, the Sharks march on to play against the the 2 out of 3 Raiders as well. So they've had a reasonable start to the season. I watched the match of them versus the Warriors, and they were certainly in it. So, look, there'll be no pushover, and the Sharks have lost 9 of the last 10 against the Raiders. It has not been pretty viewing for us for a few years against them, but we did beat them on our last start. So we will just switch to this view, switch to that view, and I will get our dear friend Chris as soon as I hit the music. Hold on.
You can't do without the music.
Yeah, here we go. All right, Chris Kelly's going to take us through the team list.
All right, obviously we're still got our guys in here. Now we've got the music. Here we go. Noah Rami and Mulatalo. The big news that everyone's been asking for is Iro to debut in the number 4 jersey. Trindle and Hines still in the halves. Big Tommy to start, which is a bit different. Talakai moves into the number cursed 11 jumper with Williams, Billy Burns, Tupua back, and another debut in Daniel Atkinson in the 14 jersey. Gives us a bit of a utility value, so we'll see how that goes. Are we going to flip to the Raiders team? Rapana, Schiller, Timoko, Chris, Savage, Ethan Strange, Foggy, Papali'i, Levi, Tapati, Hudson Young, Whitehead, the Smithies Englishman, Tom Starling, Maya Rota, Hosking, and Solo, and our dear friend Ricky Stewart at coach. Interesting enough, read today that Corey Horsburgh still can't crack into that team. And add to the injury list of bizarre injuries for this week in the NRL is Albert Hopewaki is not playing due to burning himself severely in the kitchen today. So what a week of the NRL injuries.
He burnt himself.
Yes.
Oh, cool. That is...
it's a bit of a Jeremy Smith tripping over his child ACL sort of thing. So,
there's just some fascinating sports injuries. What about the one, I think it was like Larry Bird was like... asphalting his front driveway and then got injured in the playoffs and couldn't play in the 80s or something. Just absolutely crazy. And then there was the goal.
I still think our favorite. Yeah, I still think our favorite one is the cornerback for the Giants in the NFL who blew up his hand setting off fireworks inside his house and lost 3 fingers due to it. So he did continue on for the next 5 years playing with a strapped up hand, but blew off 3 fingers with playing with fireworks as a multi-million-dollar player. So,
oh, goodness. And then there's the goalie who slammed the I think it was Dave Bessett who slammed the boot onto his hand before the FA Cup final and then wasn't able to play. Yeah. So, can you top any of those ones, Francis, in terms of
there's the horse riding bonding session for the Blues.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that one's just horrendous.
That was a disaster.
Surely the big show
Cameron Munster in the off season.
Surely the big show is banned from golf courses anytime a tournament's coming along.
Yeah. I think so. All right. Well, sticking to the rate. Look, back to the Sharks. Actually, I'll switch it back to the Sharks team because
let's go back to the team list.
Let's go back and actually look.
We've got 2 debutants. We need to get.
Yeah, we got it. Well, actually, I think you'll find Daniel Atkinson's played a match. Chris Kelly, I think you'll find
he has played a match.
He has. Sorry, I do apologise. Maybe I'll say the 2024 debutant, but. I do like Atkinson.
I don't remember him playing.
Fix-It. Yeah, he's a Mr. Fix-It. He's very Connor Tracy. Mostly plays
good.
fullback, can play in the halves, can play in the centres. I really like him. Can play number 9 also in a pinch. So we'll see how he goes.
He last for his debut match that Boldo mentioned, he only got a minute or two on the field, so it wasn't a very, very significant debut. So I'm not sure how he's going to fit into this team unless it's to cover for injuries. So we'll, I guess, watch this space. But you're right, he's very, very versatile, very much in the mold of Connor Tracy. So I guess in this scenario, if we don't have any grunt that we want to throw in there, it's a good addition to have.
Do you think he can play like a bit of a Metcalf role, Franco, coming off the bench, like where we threw Metcalf out there to give you that sort of extra, like a Craig Wing style, where sort of comes off the bench and can play a bit of lock, if not 9, and dart in there?
Yeah, probably could in a pinch, but I would probably depend on how the Canberra Raiders were playing. If they were looking a bit tired, if there was the coach saw a few holes opening up, then yeah, for sure, I think it'd be pretty good idea. I think if it's, backs to the wall, a lot of defense, gritty kind of game, I don't think he's going to get much of an opportunity, barring injury. I do like
they are a big pack, the Canberra team. Like they're
still big,
team.
aren't they?
Yeah, they're still big. And without Horsburgh, they're still a big team. So
still big. Francis, are we looking at that team? What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think the halves have got to direct everybody. They can only do that proportionally to how the forwards win their space. But if we don't get the bit of go forward and give our halves a chance, we're going to struggle a bit. Yeah. I wish the new guys all the best. They've got to step up. It's a big game for us. Yeah.
Well, kind of. There's big difference between 2-2 and 3-1, really, isn't it? Like it's just kind of sets up the season. We did have the kind of softer draw, but we could easily drop the match. I think there is pressure on Braden Trindle for mine. I thought the clunkiness of the attack was really showing.
And Blake.
And what a Blake Bradley as well. You think, Francis?
I think it's a bit hard to talk about soft draws. I know we did just lose to the double wooden Schooners and the Tigers, but at the Raiders, they were up against Newcastle, which is not exactly a powerhouse of a team at the moment, and so I think they sort of haven't had the strongest draw either. So this could be a good test for both teams. I do think they're a tough, gritty team, but I have hope. I think Jack Williams back on the bench to come in the middle, I think will be better than him out wide. I think, I don't think he offered much out wide. Really, this would be better for him. I think that the Kale Iro and Renal and Talakai change is going to be an interesting one, because it could be a bit of a monkey paw situation where if they do really well, let's say Iro carves up in the center and has a blinder of a game, and or Talakai has a blinder in the back row, there's going to be a bit of pressure moving forward as to, it worked. That fans have been calling for this kind of setup. Why don't we keep that? We've got obviously great players coming back from injury or suspension. Like Nicker has got to come back in, but it's only going to create that pressure. If anyone has an off game, they're going to go, well, it worked. The Iro Talakai combination.
Yeah, but you're not dropping Talakai as the center after he's been the top player this year. So he's not getting dropped. You're obviously not dropping Nickera, and Wilton's in immense form. So the only one who can go is Ramian. Which,
I mean, they always say
the captain. I really thought you were going to go the captain, but anyway.
They always say pressure's good, right? So maybe it'll be a good thing for the team to get that bit of pressure on them.
I don't know. I just can't see.
I'm kind of worried looking at that team. Like, it's not. And Francis knocked on the head about the team needing to go forward. Like, there's not much in there in going forward and bench wise, and
Hazelton played now 10 minutes last week.
Yeah, but it's not his go, and there's one of those tries went straight through him. There was one of those ones where he just went. That's the point. Like, I love the bloke, but we've always said his impact's off the bench. But starting prop, he's going to have to play those first 15 minutes, and then we probably go Tapua and then Williams for Kafusi, and then we're really small then.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things is we haven't got the extended bench here, but Jaden Beryl's been listed on the extended bench, but wasn't listed for the Jets at all. So obviously not injured, but is that sort of playing the cards to say maybe he will be a bit of a switcheroo for someone in the firsts there? Maybe he debuts for swap out Atkinson, or I'm not sure who else it could potentially be, but maybe this is his chance.
Francis, what do you reckon?
Oh, well, I think they're all solid points. I haven't got much else to add. It's do or die, basically. Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll look at this Raiders team quickly. They're still a good-looking team. I tell you that Rapana, he's still kicking on strong. And then, I don't know. They're just a big...
I think Horsburgh plays, surely.
Maybe. It's just an ugly...
He's not in the team. He's just not...
No, but he's on the extended bench.
So
he's on the
extended bench, but like it's that whole starting pack hasn't shifted. Like it's only if he comes in for Sulu or Mariotta's probably the only two he switches out for. So, if I'm Ricky Stewart, I'm playing him, but I've always thought I've known more than Ricky Stewart anyway, so I won't judge on him on that. So.
Fair enough. Well, most people do. But tell you what, I'm just going to close off on looking at this Raiders team. It's an ugly-looking green, Canberra Raiders. So unfortunate for you that is the colour that you chose, but that's what you get. All right. Well, can I just put on
this Raiders team that Franco's like, they played Newcastle, but their second opponent was the Tigers, who they put the sword on straight through, and then we came out and lost to the Tigers. So,
they also lost to the Warriors, and we beat the Warriors. So
I know. I said that today. I said, if you do rugby league calculations, who knows?
That's right.
Well, fair enough. All right. Well, let's get a tip, Chris. Who wins?
Oh, the ugly green, I think, at this stage. Just their pack scared me. They got the wood on us because of that pack, and that pack scares me even more. A caveat to our last win was a send-off. So, I'm glad I won't be in attendance because I hate this team.
All right, so you're tipping the Raiders?
Yeah, sadly.
Franco?
I don't know. I heard rumours that it was a bit of a standing room only at Shark Park. So maybe with the crowd come out in the long weekend and give the team a bit of a boost. I'm going Sharkies. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight one. Obviously, we're going to be having to defend like no business, and I think maybe we come from behind and snag a win.
Fair enough. Francis, tip?
I'm going for the Sharks. I think they'll have to fire up, and I think they'll try and get a better start than they have in the last couple of games. I think they've been a bit slow overall in the first sort of 20 minutes, from just slow to score, slow to move forward, and I think their coach will be on them to make a change, and if we can get in front and then put a bit of pressure on them to catch us up, and that's when we can go well.
All right, fair enough. All right, and then Matty Williams has picked Canberra Raiders win, just for the record, and I don't have the tip from Scott Latino yet. So I am, I'm torn here. I'm going to say that I think the Sharks will win, and I think a spirited performance will come through from an understrength Sharks team, and we'll be back, baby, and we'll be doing the debrief on Sunday night following the match, and we'll be singing the song, and I think the Sharks will win by 10 is my prediction. All right, that was the Sharks versus... Hey, what was that, Francis?
Bold, eh?
Oh, well, I just think we got the energy. I just think a week's a long time in rugby league, and they're not going to want to put in a poor performance. And I think in front of the Sharks faithful, they will fire up. All right, let's get to it. Chris is going to do his Around the League segment. Chris, what is happening everywhere else? What might we be interested in if you're a Sharks fan?
Oh, my God. So we obviously touched on it, and lucky we got Francis here because the NRL injury curses have hit so early in round 4. So the guy who likes to run the social media for NRL Physio, obviously he gets inundated all the time. I'm sure this will happen to Francis shortly. Soon to be the next person where inbox will fill up on the socials, people asking about injuries. So I'll just quickly go through this team of what's out just for this week alone. And I'm sure it's been updated today, but I threw in Albert Hopewadi, but we've got Payne Haas, Reece Walsh, Greg Marzu, Mitchell Moses, Nathan Cleary, Lindsay Collins, Scott Sorensen, Toby Ridolph, Royce Hunt, Dale Finucane, Tino Fusamasi, Ali, who did his ACL on the weekend, also Ruben Cotter, Kyle Labert, Sandon Smith, Bryce Cartwright, Cameron Murray, who's a bit of injury cloud, Billy Smith and Jack White, and just to name the team. So it's pretty much multi-million dollars worth of players who aren't playing this weekend. So that's pretty much covering what is going on in this current week for this round. Obviously, interesting news today out of our Premier for New South Wales decided not to pitch in and upgrade the oval that was last week at Leichhardt Oval, even though it was a absolute fill-up. And then the NRL's come out today and said Volandis, with his buying up of properties and things like that, possibly may look into purchasing the ground. So we'll have to watch this space to see what goes from there. My other favourite subject for the NRL is obviously Vegas.
Chris, you went to Leichhardt
in the box seat.
Yeah, Chris, you went to Leichhardt as an away fan. What was that like? Did you enjoy that, or did you think it's a mess?
I've been there a few times, and my biggest issue is it's a suburban ground that's no longer fit for NRL standards. The problem being its location. It's not the actual ground itself, which is a great, we like going to our ground. We only hold 13,000 strong, so, it doesn't feel like what it used to do in sellout days, and we all know it's pretty tough to park around Cronulla and Woolware these days or even drive around the Shire. It's even harder in that section due to the fact it's literally surrounded by housing. So it's trying to find anywhere to get in that way. There's no public transport towards that way. It's nothing direct. So I don't know. They could upgrade the facilities. I saw Shane Richardson during the week said they got 300 corporates in, but if they took the game somewhere else, they'd get 700 plus corporates in. So it's obviously killing their bottom line. So they would like to go to somewhere else. I reckon they'll move to Parramatta Stadium eventually.
But they do go somewhere else. They've got like 3 or 4 home grounds.
Yeah, and then you got Campbelltown, and then they sort of play out of Parramatta. So I reckon he wants to sort of move in on that Parramatta ground and try and work out a deal there as the next step. So I think it's sort of like, as Bolton knows, North Sydney Oval, like the memory's great. You all sort of love the nostalgia of going there, but is it a ground to go and watch a rugby league game with 20,000 people? Probably not.
Yeah. No, it's a game that a local would go to. So if North Sydney, if there was a match of, Titans versus New Zealand Warriors at North Sydney Oval, I would go and watch it because I live next door. So you're really getting 15,000 people to a match that's just happens to be next door. And if you played 11, 12 matches there a season, you would thin that crowd out because they're kind of starved of events.
And that would be my suggestion at Leichhardt. If they want to play there, play the Cowboys, play the Titans, play the Warriors. Like, get your 15,000 in there, and it looks solid. It looks like a solid sellout. The place pulsates when it's, and you saw how the Tigers reacted to it.
Yeah,
like the place is pandemonium. But the NRL being an NRL, you wouldn't mind moving to Parramatta. We can get 25,000 easily. And like I said, Shane Richardson also mentioned that he'd like to think you'd get 20,000 at Sharks Tigers at Parramatta Stadium. So
do you apply the same lens to Shark Park?
Yeah, if I took off my black, white, and blue glasses, we're pretty selfish in the fact that we get to sit in our seats every week and things like that. But if I was a visiting fan or a fan that was a bit of casual, I'd hate to go there. I've sort of already seen after our first home ground the comments about the lineup for the toilets and the lack of facilities.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're pretty spoiled. Where we sit, it doesn't bother us because we're out of the sun. We got our own bar. We've got our own toilet that's right next to us. Whereas, if we play the Dragons at Sharks, it's, hold on to your best. We saw it in the semi-finals. If you wanted to get something to eat, you can line up for an hour and try and get a pack of hot chips. But yeah,
I'm not entirely sure I agree with that argument though. It's almost a scale scenario, right? If you go to Allianz or if you go to the new SFS and it's a full house as it should be, you've got to wait for ages to use the toilet. You got to wait for ages to get a beer. You've got to queue up. That's just
No,
how
not
it
at the
is.
new ones, Franco.
Yeah.
So
The new ones,
not
I've heard otherwise. The new
Nah.
ones. And I remember when we first went to Suncorp when they opened, and I was blown away by the facilities. And a few of us have been to games at the MCG where there's 40,000 and it feels like there's 10,000, and you can walk up to a bar and you're about 3 people deep. So it's building those facilities where, like, Boldo's been at Parramatta Stadium. I haven't done that yet. He can probably talk on it, where they overbuild those facilities around knowing that, like, people don't want to line up. I stopped going to State of Origin games because I got sick of lining up for 45 minutes for a beer. Whereas these new stadiums have, knowing those factors, they've built those things into it. So, like I said, I still like going to these suburban grounds as much as I don't like going to Manly. I prefer it. I'd rather stand on a hill and go watch a game at Campbelltown. I'd rather go to Leichhardt and stand amongst the people on the scoreboard. Like, it feels like rugby league, and that's what sort of our fans still are, as those hardened on rugby league fans. So we don't want to take it away. But like you said, I think they want to do it to scale. I think they want to do those kind of games where, you know, if we're playing the Warriors, let's go to Leichhardt. But if we're playing Parramatta or playing the Roosters, let's go to the bigger grounds. I think that's what they should do. You saw it again on the weekend, Belmore with the Titans. They didn't fill it up, but it still felt like a pure, one of those pure home games, we like to say, where the crowd sort of dictates it. But if they play the Titans at the SFS, it would look horrible.
Francis, you want to close this out on Leichhardt?
I think it's needs a huge upgrade. I went down to watch the Swans play Collingwood last weekend on Friday night. 80,000 people, 79,000 people, and queues for the toilet and the meals and drinks were short. It's just a few minutes. It's nothing like 40 minutes. And my friends and I, we just get the shits with missing so much game lining up for whatever it might be. So I think the suburban grounds do need severe upgrading, and I'm all for bigger supported teams playing at bigger grounds. Yeah,
I think that's
as
right.
much as I love going to Shark Park.
Well, the problem with the suburban grounds is they're good when they're good. So I remember going to Manly and watching and getting a good spot on halfway because my friends got there early, and I was a impartial person to Parramatta versus Manly, and it was my mates had a good time. But sometimes when you go to play Manly at Brookvale and you don't get a good spot and you're standing with the Sharks fans up the crap end and you can hardly see and you can't see half the match, it's bloody awful. So when it's bad, it's bad. Everyone remembers the romance of the good things. You know, you break up with a girlfriend and then you remember the good times. You don't remember the bad times, do you? So, just remember those bad times.
You would know best, mate.
I'm just digging myself a hole here. All right, Franco, what else have you got around the grounds? What else do we need to know? Anything else, or are we done?
That was pretty much it for around the grounds. Was like I said, it was Penrith probably in the box seat for Vegas next season, given that they're going to do, like we just talked about, an upgrade to Penrith Stadium next year. I think that was the shot from the Tigers was why should Penrith get a new stadium with gold-plated toilets and Leichhardt gets nothing? So they're in the box seat, obviously, for next year for Vegas, given they won't have a home ground. They're also considering taking an NRLW team over there because that was the other sort of gripe was where's the women's game? We can sort of fill it up. So other than that, like I said, the mass injury toll this week is just huge. Like it keeps going and going and going. So we'll see what brings out of round 4.
Sounds good. Yeah. All right, that was around the league. All right, well, look, we're going to close off the show with an overreaction Tuesday. Bit happening with the Sharks. So Chris is going to fire a whole bunch of questions at me, and I'm going to try and answer them quickly. And then at the end of it, Franco and Francis are going to tell me where I went wrong and why I'm a complete fool and don't know what I'm talking about is what's going to happen with this segment. And Chris has not prepped me with these questions today, so this is all random. Let's go, mate.
Well, we all like this better than the Tears anyway. So first one's going to be Iro to the centres and Talakai to the second row will be the new lineup going forward.
That is an overreaction. Talakai is the top player for the Sharks. His hands are brilliant. We have elite level back rowers. Kale Iro will perform well and admirably and will be a suitable replacement for any player in the backs. But Talakai will be back into the centres as soon as Nico returns, regardless of how well Kale Iro does next week.
Breaking Dan Nichols' heart there. Breaking Dan Nichols' heart. Back-to-back losses, if we lose this week to Canberra, will cruel our season not getting the double points.
I think it will cruel our season. Look, we would have hoped to have been 4 from 4. So I think it could be if we lose to Canberra this week and then the Tigers, we will look back at the end of the season and when we're 7th instead of 5th or 5th instead of 4th or maybe even 9th instead of 8th, we're going to look back at these 2 matches and think these are the ones that we should have won. So I think it would have been nice to just kick away and give ourselves a bit of a buffer from the rest of the pack and give us the chance to get away. I don't think we want to be 2 from 2, or 2 from 4 rather coming out of that. So crueling the season, certainly not going to help.
Given that you watched given that you watched the 4-hour marathon that was the Australian Idol final last night,
yes.
Dylan Wright, the winner, should now be our number 1 ticket holder for the rest of the season.
I think that is accurate. Let's go. Why not lean in, baby? I think let's make him number 1. Let's get him to perform next week. Why not? So make Francis and Franco actually hear what this guy can sing about. I thought when he performed with Shannon Noel, What About Me was terrific performance, and his story is brilliant. And he's not a bandwagon fan. There's photos of him with the peach. So he's as good as one as any, and let's get him in.
I did back Francis's idea with Peter Gow, but I had an idea that, you see in the NFL where they get like the horn out or the 13th man to ring the siren.
Oh,
you get him to stand. Yeah, something like that. But you can get him to stand up each week and cut up the jersey of the team.
Yes!
And that would just fire up the crowd. They got the Viking clap. Let's do the jersey cut. Every week we could do the jersey cut. Like imagine just gets a spotlight on him, the camera, everyone gets ready, and you can do he just cuts it up.
No, then each week he can come out with a new apparatus and
something different. Yeah. Just an idea off the top of my head. I come up with these silly things.
I don't think that's an overreaction at all. But I do like the idea of the horn, so maybe it should be a shark siren.
Yeah, cool. Just on the back of the last subject, the NRL should step in and save Leichhardt Oval or similar suburban grounds.
No, there's a massive 60,000 seat stadium around the corner, 10 kilometres down the road. Leichhardt, sorry, no, we can't afford it. We have enough stadiums as it is. And no, I don't think we can afford it. And it's favouring one club too much. Sorry.
Well, they do want to put back in the grassroots rugby league. Look, this is a grassroots area.
Is it? It's full of rich people who are retiring.
Is it more of an AFL area?
More of anything. I don't.
Yeah, it's a massive football. It's a massive soccer area. So yeah, I'll take it.
I don't know if it's much of it. I wouldn't be saving Leichhardt Oval. I think Australia's got bigger problems than solving than building another rectangular stadium in a city that already has about 15 of them.
Gotcha. Well, that's it for the overreaction, underreaction.
All right. Well, Francis, I can see you're chairman at the bit to just call me an idiot on one of these. So which one did I get wrong just then?
No, I think you answered them well. I'm all for the, as we said, the bigger stadiums. I think Talakai has, improved his game this season. Left-hand edge, shocking defence. He's been solid. He's been good in attack. His hands have been good. So, I'd take your point, Chris. It might go well on the one-off, and it could be something that is allured to in the future. But I think it'll only, 3 games in. I don't think it's a permanent change. No, so I'd go with that. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Francis, you're just a nice guy. Whereas Franco, he is going to pick apart the weakest part of what I just said here and just absolutely go for it. So, all right, what do you got, Franco?
People in glass, how don't throw stones. I don't know. I reckon let's be a bit more cautious about suburban grounds. Hey, let's look after them. Let's keep them around, and we don't want to be the worst suburban ground. If you start getting rid of Leichhardt and then the Manly Seagulls get their upgrade to the massive UFC stadium with the roof and everything, everyone starts turning to Shark Park, PointsBet Stadium as the last lowly old suburban ground, and then someone brings up Boldo saying, "No, we don't need suburban grounds," and we're cooked.
We're not a suburban ground. We're an NRL powerhouse. And also the Sharks, the Cronulla is too far away to travel for an hour. So the difference between Leichhardt and Allianz is shouldn't be that long. And the public transport of Sydney should be better. That they should be able to accommodate that. But that's a different problem altogether.
It's funny on that. When Canberra beat Tigers, that was all Ricky talked about in the press conference, was upgrading Canberra Stadium. So the people deserve it. It's in the nation's capital. He just went on his soapbox.
Well, it's Bruce Stadium's in the middle of nowhere. And they got those weird looking colours now that looked a bit Tigers-esque, actually.
Yeah.
So
and it's 40 years old.
I think there was a missing overreaction Tuesday question, except this one was for Kelly. The Appy thumbnail crawled the Sharks.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Boldo in one of his rants said, you guys can fix it from now on. I'm not doing it. And, we get Raiders round 3. And then,
I said that Sharks had to shut down Appy Coruscant to win that match was what I said. And they didn't do that and we lost. So I stand by that.
I think I noticed our viewers went up on a Saturday morning because Appy was in hospital with gastro and was just looking at it on repeat and thought, you know what, I'm going to go and play, and just tore us up.
I think that's really mean, but fair enough. I will not put another opposition player in the thumbnail for any of our future videos.
Not just the main head, just the main head guy.
All right. All right, we won't do that. Yeah, fair enough. All right. Okay. All right. Well, that was Overreaction Tuesday. And then, thanks for everyone for watching. Franco, anything we missed that you want us to mention this week that we didn't get to discuss, or any previous subjects if you want us to build?
Just a quick little one. I think Francis might have touched on it a bit earlier, but I did see Dykes named. So he was named in fullback last week, but was pulled, didn't play. Ison played. This week he was named to play in the halves at 5'8", with, I guess, Atkinson moving up to playing first. He's been named in this number 6 jersey. So assuming everything goes as planned, we will see him playing in the halves for the New South Wales Jets.
Great.
Newtown Jets.
Yep.
Yeah, the New South Wales Jets. Gracie, you got anything for us that we missed?
Just on Franco with the extended bench. So it's Beryl, Blake Hosking, Sam Stonestreet, Puru, and Max Bradbury. So I don't think, again, it solves those forward problems that I sort of pushed on, that we're playing a massive pack. So there's not really much of a stock behind us.
With speed.
We're missing four of our big boys. So
yeah,
I thought Hoskins was good in the trials, but I didn't think he was in our top 30. So it might be just sort of a confidence naming there, as opposed to any real chance of getting on the park. But yeah, you're right. We're not strong as we were with our first starters up. So we'll see how we go.
Can I just throw another question? I'm not sure if Francis can touch on it. With how do you feel about the concussion protocols with the automatic stand down?
Oh, I think that's a good thing. Yeah, the concussion assessment. They have an assessment tool for concussion that each player does pre-season and has a baseline, and then they retest every day almost with the professionals, or every second day, and monitor memory, recall, balance, for example, naming the months of the year backwards, and there's various tests and scores are taken. And then there's symptoms, fuzziness, unable to concentrate, double vision, all those sort of things. So they need to be monitored. If someone has a concussion, I've seen many of them. It's most unusual to have a concussion and feel great in 4 or 5 days. So I think, the 2-week stand down is nice. Then players usually need to work through 6 sort of levels of progressive activity, starting from just rest to walking to light cardio to heavy cardio, light weights, medium, heavy weights, light contact, full contact, back to training. So to try and do all that progression in a short time and monitor the symptoms on a daily basis, it's too short a turnaround in a week. So I think 2 weeks is a nice score. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like the way that it takes it out of the player's hand, thinking they need to play. I kind of like the idea of the rule. So
yeah, players.
I heard the forwards have got an easier test than the backs anyway. So
I couldn't do the months backwards Normally, so.
November, October, September, August,
Yeah.
July.
I
June,
recently got asked who the
May,
Prime Minister was, and I
March,
had to think about it for a second.
February.
So.
Who is the Prime Minister? Isn't it Abbott?
You got a concussion, mate.
Fair enough. Now, Francis, your son is, of course, in the Jersey flag team. He's been named this week. Is that right?
Yep, yeah, he's got named as a starter this week. There's a bit of draw up from the New South Wales Cup team, the Jets, up to the seniors, and from the flag up into the Jets. So, yeah, he's come off the bench to be a starter. So it'll be his debut. Yeah,
Him and
proud dad
Felix, eh?
yeah, Felix is up there too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, well, they're unlucky too. With I think three head injuries in their forward, so they're very the flag are short of front rowers as well. But they're under a bit of pressure. They've got to step forward similar to what we've just discussed. Yeah,
I think they're a strong team this year.
They're doing really well.
Yeah. Well, they're 1 win, 2 losses, and the 2 losses have been a bit sad. So, yeah, they've got potential. They do have a good team. They've just got to put it together. Yeah.
Well, it must be a proud dad moment. All right, we'll definitely have to get you on.
Yeah,
to
very proud.
Again. So, what time's the flag game this week?
Got me on there. That's
Yeah.
There we go.
4 o'clock.
Yeah, you got
4
me.
o'clock Sunday.
4 o'clock Sunday. All right, perfect. All right, we'll definitely see you down there.
Yeah, I'll be
All
down
right,
there.
perfect. All right, well, look, that was this week's episode of the ET Stand podcast. We will have a debrief episode following full time. I'm not sure who's going to host that yet, but we will work that out. We've also just uploaded a classic Cronulla Chronicle of a classic Sharks versus a Raiders match, which was one that included, I think it was the debut of Tyrone Peachy actually was the one in question, and also a few. I think Todd Carney features pretty heavily in that one too. So that one's a good listen if you want to go and watch that. And then other than that, please do like the video and also hit the subscribe button, as it does help us on YouTube. And please get involved in the comments and tell us where we made any mistakes. And we will do our best to update you guys with anything that comes our way during the week. But in the meantime, that was the ET Stand for this week. And we will see you guys next time. Up Cronulla.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.